Let's launch Visual Studio. Let's open up our project file. To switch things up a bit, I've written the code that we've created so far in C# so that you can have a varied language experience with the .NET framework. Regardless of whether we use VB.NET or C#, the ADO.NET object model and data access mechanisms are the same. Select File, Open, Project. Browse to your desktop. Inside the Visual Studio Project Files directory, go to Chapter 6. Inside this directory, you'll see that we have both VB and C# files. Open up the C# files. We've conveniently recreated Chapter 4 and 5 for you, so you have a sense of how we built the application in C#. Open up Chapter 6 and select the Before directory. There, you'll see the Anti-Curator Admin. Open that directory, and inside there, you'll see Anti-Curator Admin Solution. Open that solution by double-clicking on it. You'll see some of the project files that we've created earlier, such as the base form and the main. We've also taken the liberty to add some graphic assets so that you have images also representing your navigation. So now let's work with binding some data to our application. Visual Studio 2008 has a variety of different tools for working with data. One of these tools is the Data Sources window. In order to view this window, select Data, Show Data Sources. This will launch the Data Sources window. You can drag this over to your toolbox so you have more real estate. By default, there's nothing here. That's because we have no data sources associated to our project. We can certainly change that. Select the Add New Data Source button or select the Add New Data Source icon at the top of the window. This will launch the Data Source Configuration Wizard. This will allow us to add new data sources to our project. Once we create a data source, we can then leverage that data source to create a user interface with data-bound controls and also interact with the Data Sources window by dragging items from the data window onto the forms in our project. We can choose to use a database, service, or object for our data source. An object could be a DLL or any type of class. A service could be an ASP.NET Web Service, or it could be a service in WCF. Let's select Database and select Next. By default, this will navigate to the Northwind connection, which we have added in our Server Explorer. If we use the drop-down list, we can see that this is the only connection we have. As you remember, we added the inventory database, so we'll need to set up a new connection to the inventory database. Click on the button New Connection. For server name, type in localhost. You can use Windows Authentication by default, and for the database name, use the drop-down list to select Inventory. Once it's selected, click on the Test Connection button to make sure your connection will succeed. Click OK and OK again. We now have a connection string that we can expand and take a look at right from this window. Select Next to continue. This will prompt you to save the connection string into your app configuration settings. As you remember earlier, we worked with these settings by setting an image upload directory. The inventory connection string will also be stored into the same settings file. Select Next. Visual Studio 2008 will automatically iterate through all the objects that are available in the database, such as stored procedures, functions, tables, etc. We can use these objects to create a data set. Let's give the data set a name. We'll call it DS Items. And then from the Tables node, expand and select the Item table. By clicking on the Item table, this will automatically select all the columns below this. This data set will serve as a way to manage our items information, so we can add, update, delete, and retrieve item information from our database. Select Finish. And now you will see in your Data Sources window the Item data source. Expand this, and you can see all the columns that are now associated to control types.